Yeah, all right, we'll be curious to see. I'll be testing you occasionally, throw in a curveball, or I say something that is obviously wrong, see if you can call me out on it.
Yeah.
All right, in the bottom right corner, spawning as the red Terran player, playing for the recently formed Shopify Rebellion with teammates Lambo, who's in the call with me, and of course Scarlet, who played yesterday as well. It's going to be Byun.
Mm-hmm. And his opponent in the top left, the blue Protoss player from Korea. It is Hurricane.
All right, Hurricane. Show us what you got today. Yesterday, I think we saw some blink openers coming in from him. He just seems like the guy. He also played a blink Colossi build actually on Oxide. Now that I'm thinking back of all of those games, I do have quite a bit of info on him. He has some odd openers that either feel a little bit outdated or a little bit ahead of their time. Sometimes it's difficult to see if they're going to be meta changing or if he's playing from a meta before. We saw Byun actually scout the little edge there with an SCV, potentially for a cannon rush maybe? Maybe Hurricane cannon rushed him one too many times. These things, they stay in your mind forever, You lose on the ladder once against some clown strategy and forever. For example, whenever I play against the Muslim, I always scout behind my natural because he beat me once on Lost and Found with a barracks hidden behind my natural. And ever since then, every single game, there's a pro going behind that natural, making sure there's no barracks.
All right. Well, Hurricane went for a very early, like an earlier pylon than usual, and also early gate. So I think he's just going to chrono boost out in the depth, right, to the other side of the map. What do you think of Submarine in general? Because this is a map that I don't see very frequently. I know stuff like Proxy Void Ray and this kind of style is strong, but in general, isn't it more of a Terran map?
Yeah, it's way more of a Terran map. This is the reason why Proxy Void Race is strong or very common is because everything else kind of sucks on this map. It's a really, really good Terran map. There's some nasty tank locations outside of the third base, like near that pillar, where you can kind of control the ramp going down to the third base. If you look at the fourth base, well, if these rocks are up, you're never going to take it. Like, it's just a super tricky map in a lot of ways. It's also extremely small. To come back to your point, I actually completely missed it, but this indeed was a 12 pylon 13 gate, and this means that the Adept is going to be about 10 seconds faster. Instead of the Cybercore finishing up at 250, at 150, or at 2 minutes, it finishes up at 150. It's still early, man, for a pro gamer. Leave me alone.
Well, I'm glad we only have one series to cast, so you need to get it up fast, because... Well, I mean, Byun went for a Marine first into Reactor, so he had the 3 Marines, so I think this definitely went quite well for him, and he already has the bunker ready as well for the Stalker. So overall, I like it here for Byun, who opted to go for a 2 barracks opener with a fast eBay, something newer, I would say.
Yeah, this is something that Byun has been doing for quite some time now. He's been playing these very offbeat Marine move outs, and it will feel like it makes no sense. Like, he might just make a timing across the map with a random number of Marines, and he might also not do it. It's an absolute gamble as a Protoss, because you have no clue what's going to happen. In theory, this could very well be a factory as well, right? There's nothing that indicates, hey, this is a Marine build. But very often Byun has been opting to go for either these 2 or 3 Rex plays, sometimes with a very fast third command center as well. And then he just moves on the map with 16 Marines. And for most people, having like 16 naked Marines on the map without medevacs is very scary. But the control of Byun is so good. Just knowing when to move forward, when to kite backward. Kind of the cat and mouse between the Stalkers and the Marines very often actually ends up in favor of Byun for whatever reason. I can't quite put my finger on why that is exactly, but his control in these situations is extremely sharp. In general, I'm not a massive fan of this style because it kind of sucks against Colossi heavy openers because you get so many Marines early on, and if there's a Colossi out, you get no real potential for damage.
And how do you think it lines up against the 4-gate blink that Hurricane is opting for?
It kind of depends what Byun does, honestly. I mean, if he's going to be playing defensive, he's going to have a crap ton of units, right? He's going to have +1 and stim done, and Hurricane's got to be like, what the heck is this guy on? But if Byun decides to move out, and Hurricane sees that, he can catch him on the middle of the map. I mean, that'd be absolutely fantastic for Hurricane. I'm kind of afraid, though, that he's going to have to deal with a defensive Byun in here, who already has +1. who's going to even be getting his +1 armor right now. Factory about to be finished. So, yeah, I wouldn't be too happy here if I'm a Hurricane fan.
Yeah. And Byun didn't really scout anything. This is the first information that he got, is that he saw obviously the Observer in his main base, and now he saw the Stalkers coming. So here he played it very blind. He didn't have a Reaper, so he doesn't know if there's a third Nexus or not. But I think this is one of the more popular builds, especially on this map, pretty strong as well. So I'm not too surprised if he would expect this. Oh, the SUVs are a little bit out of position, and he might get the bunker. Yeah, nice pickoff.
Yeah, barely gets a bunker. Now, do know that this is a big Marine army, right? If there was a couple of extra Marauders in here, that would really help Byun, because Marines are just a little bit easier to kite. They don't fight quite as well against Stalker. So losing that bunker actually was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
We see the second stim already being used here by Byun. How far are the medevacs away? Oof, they're just now about to start. This is looking kind of difficult here for Byun.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that the bunker is gone, he kind of has to move out, and otherwise Hurricane can just always engage and blink his Stalkers back, which he's doing fantastically. On Submarine, you don't have a ramp that Protoss needs to go up to, and he needs to buy time for the second bunker that he remade. So pretty good trades overall, I would say, for now from Hurricane. Obviously, Hurricane himself has a very, very late third Nexus, and is just now getting his Robo Bay, his Fortune, his Charge on the way. So it's not like he went for the most economic opener either, but decent trades here.
Yeah, definitely have been good trades in favor of Hurricane. Now, don't forget, whenever we see an even worker Terran against a Protoss, that tends to be good for the Terran player, because the Muse, obviously. On top of that, we also see these upgrades are heavily in favor of Byun, and he's now starting to add a lot of Marauders into the mix. He hasn't really lost any Marauders yet. It's just mainly been Marines. I think he lost a single Marauder, yeah. So it's going to be important to keep that Marauder count high, because once those Colossi start hitting the field, if you have an army consisting of 28 Marines, like, you're not going to be able to do anything, especially if there's a battery in play.
There's actually no battery here yet, and Byun obviously doesn't know that. He also doesn't know that the Nexus is not done yet, but if he goes, there are not that many units that can just fight straight up. He scans forward, he sees there's no shield battery, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he goes forward. He does back off a little bit now. Maybe he wants to wait for some tanks and the next two medevacs. Oh, Warp Prism.
Yeah, Warp Prism in the main gets kind of delays his own push for that. I don't actually mind that too much for Byun, because that Colossi was so close to pushing. If you stim in and you kind of engage into a fight like this, it can be tricky if there's blink in play to just straight up disengage. Especially if the Colossi get 1 or 2 snipes up on the Marines. 2 tanks are being added as well, and I think we're going to be seeing that push near that pillar, so close to that ramp. It is so freaking difficult to deal with unless you have thermal lens before that push arrives. So I would love for Hurricane to just move on the map now. I wouldn't even mind if he moves with his entire army, not just with the Stalkers. He needs to delay this until thermal finishes up.
Yeah, he didn't get any pickoffs here, and he realizes now that Byun is already on his side of the map. And I think he didn't do what you said there, and he wasn't aggressive enough with his army, which means that Byun pretty much just moved forward, wasn't forced to siege at all a single time. Oh, he even drops it to medevacs. I figured he can just leave his entire army together and pounce with 1-1, but he doesn't seem as confident in doing that, so instead he's gonna try to go for the double medevac drop, and I scans the Observer as well, and I guess he's gonna try to push in at the same time.
Yeah, this was a very weird... I really thought he would be able to just straight up push. Now, he does have a third base finish. These 2 drops are unspotted. There's no Stalkers in the natural either. Stalkers are actually in the front right now. And I think what's going to happen is Byun's going to be able to do damage with this drop and then get himself in a really nice position at the third base at the same time as well.
Absolutely. The Stalkers need to deal with the drops, but there's a lot of Marines there. Now, meanwhile, Byun is stimming back. The tanks did not get sieged. But as long as he's kiting back here, he eliminates all the Zealots, and Hurricane needs to back off. He only has the Robo units remaining in this main army. He did gear up the medevacs, but I think overall a very good trade for Byun, who's now ahead in workers.
Yeah, definitely. And Robo Bay also being taken out. Now, it's not the biggest of deals because 3 Colossi are already out, but ideally you do want to probably get into Disruptors at some point in your life, so that Robo Bay needs to be rebuilt. Third base is done right now for Byun, and we actually see him switch it up a little bit from what I've seen before out of him. Very often, when he felt like he had momentum, he would just continue building medevacs, go into a faster fourth base, double eBay upgrades, and then go into 8 racks. Kind of how you would play against Zerg, except no second factory. And then eventually go into Ghost, once he felt like there's too many Disruptors. Get this massive Marauder count initially, and you can kind of trade with with a Colossi army as long as you have decent enough upgrades, which he definitely has. Right now, though, he's opting to go for Ghost. There is an armory and there is double eBay, but because he's going Ghost and he's going double eBays, he needs to go into 6 gas, and that fort base is going to be a little bit delayed, and these extra barracks are going to be delayed, and I'm even doubting if we're really going to be seeing these extra barracks at any point in this game, because this is starting to feel kind of all-in-ish coming out of Byun here. Continuing Viking production as well. He might just go for a big tank push and never start his 2-2 upgrades, or maybe after his push kind of fails or if it doesn't work. Seems more as a backup plan here.
Yeah, well, he is popping on the 4CC, and I would be very surprised if he never starts the 2-2 because he just started the army and the extra eBay at the same time. But I know what you're talking about, where you want to put on pressure, deny a fort base, possibly by Protoss. Very often you can catch them off guard in between their bases when they split themselves too far. So going for this move out right now, once you approach a very high supply count with your first Vikings, and also still using the tanks that are very strong right now, sounds like a good idea. And it looks like that's exactly what he's doing. He is actively not starting 2-2, which is obviously expensive. Okay, now he starts. The armor upgrade first, by the way, which he's my teammate. Yeah, he's my teammate. I told him to start the attack instead. Then he did it for about 2 games, and then he did the other thing. He did it again the other way around. He said it's just muscle memory, so...
Gets the Prism down, though, with those 2 Vikings, with his Marauders and Marines as well, so that's nice. Will be a lot safer for him to move out right now that he knows that Prism is gone. There's a bunch of disruptors on the map, but with tanks, sometimes you can fight those guys pretty much straight on.
Now Hurricane saw the entire army movement, so he timed the Zealot run by very, very nicely, but Byun has a... Oh, the wall is not complete at his third base, and now he needs to send back a bunch of his units. At the same time, he is stimming in forward, very offensively, sieges forward the tanks, shield battery overcharge is popped. Disruptors don't get good connections, only hurt a single siege tank, and it's going to be very hard for Hurricane to fight into this. He just needs to give up the third base.
Yeah, the tank positions on this map are so freaking nasty. Like it feels like there's infinite positions that he can take. Now, we're saying that this is a good push coming out of Byun, of course, but let's not forget that the Zealots have been putting in real work on the other side of the map. 24 workers have gone down, sure. Hurricane is only on 2 bases, but he also still has 60 workers. He's getting a lot of disruptors, and the more disruptors you get, usually the better the TOS army gets as well. It seems to be a straight correlation there. We see a triple drop going into the main base right now. This is scary for Byun as well. This is tricky.
I think as long as he trades with these medevacs in the main base and kills the new third base that Hurricane has, I think he can just go home. Wait till he's maxed out, wait for his upgrades, and then he should be in a phenomenal position. I think Hurricane kind of messed up there with his run by because the Zealots almost killed an entire CC that was just there in the natural, the fourth base. Yeah, if those went into the mineral line at the natural, I maybe would have liked a little bit more for Hurricane. But for now, I think Byun doesn't need to push anymore. And Hurricane knows that he needs to do something. He does engage out now, and this is not Byun's entire army, so he will get the cleanup, but it's a very costly one.
Yeah, it's...
not even
actually, I'm not even sure if he's gonna be getting the cleanup. Yeah. 2-2 finishes just as the game ends, exactly the way Byun had it planned, with the armor first and the infantry weapons second. And yeah, nice, neat little game there coming out of Byun, who you seem to be struggling a little bit in the early game, but it's difficult to say sometimes how much damage is enough when you're playing these big Blink Stalker early games, right? If you're not really actively killing SCVs and your third base isn't that fast, how good is that situation really that he finds himself in? I'm not entirely sure. It felt like, sure, the trades were good, but then you look at the state the moment the first push starts happening, and I don't actually mind the position that much for Byun.
Yeah, no, he seemed in a fine position, and it was very crucial that he did get the second bunker up though. Like once that bunker dies, the Protoss can theoretically always trade forever, right? Because there are no siege tanks on his build order, so there's nothing to zone out the stalkers, and the stalkers should just get trades. And Byun with a very good decision there to sacrifice a lot of his marines. Honestly, he lost like 20 marines to the stalkers, but as you said, he was still in a fine position since this was a rather committed build, even though it might not look it by Hurricane.
Yeah, and if you're a Terran player, it probably never feels that way, that it's committed.
Yeah.
I know myself as well. You play against it like, oh, He kills like shoots like 1 bunker, then you scan, and he's like 6 base. Like what? I'm still on 2. But yeah, no, the Furgate is kind of dedicated, of course. And let's not forget that his initial start of the game also wasn't too hot, right? He did play the 12-13, the 12-13 game. So yeah, altogether, neat little game here for Byun, who has very nice maneuvers. It feels a bit like a brick at times, you know, how he plays, you know what I mean? Where he just loads up and he goes, you know, just instinctual kind of, where he knows, okay, I feel like there's no observer here, and I'm just going to load up these medevacs and go into the natural. And it's not something you expect if you see 3 tanks moving across the map. Like you're not going to expect 2 medevacs to also show up in your natural, because that push by itself is already so scary. And both of us were kind of confused, but that really did work out. And if Byun gets into a position where he has that type of momentum, where you don't have full vision as a Protoss player, he's one of the scariest guys to play against, because he's loading up entire armies. His micro in these individual situations is so ridiculously good. Like his Marauders just seem a little bit stronger than the other guy's Marauders. So it's cool to see how he kind of uses that micro and kind of gives his own. Really, he kind of changed TVP. I think we've seen it a lot more often. These big barrack styles right now with continuous medevac production, and it's rough to play against. And it's kind of Byun.
I think the cool thing last game as well was that right after he loaded up the first 2 medevacs, an observer saw the entire army, and I think Hurricane thought this was the entire army that Byun had, because it was still so big that it looked like it could just be a close fight with his main army. So he was completely out of position. Like after he saw that, he moved all the stalkers to the front, and that's where the drop hit, and obviously that made things go even worse. No, I still question that this was the perfect play. I feel like just looking at the armies, he might have also just won with a straight up push. So we can't say that afterwards, right? But it ended up working out perfectly there for him. And I think if Byun just gets into a safe mid game where he's not too far behind, he should feel pretty comfortable against Hurricane. I'm pretty sure he sees himself as the favorite as well. And he also played it super safe last game, blind turret and everything, blind turret, early bunker, just one of his more standard openers.
Yeah. I mean, he plays it safe. He actually tends to not scout a lot as well, though. Like I've watched him play entire Ollie Mollies without sending an SCV to the other side of the map. And you check his vision 6 minutes in, and you've seen like half an inch outside of his natural with like a Marine or something. And it's like, all right, if that's how you want to be doing it, that's completely fine. But we're going to be going into game number 2 here. And then top right, spawning as the Red Terran player playing for Team Shopify's Rebellion. It's going to be Byun.
And his opponent, he's on his last life in the losers bracket. The blue Protoss player, it is Hurricane, who I believe is currently teamless. Although you can correct me if I'm wrong.
I also believe he's currently teamless. He also has the Protoss logo in the bottom. It's really cool that they have a specific thing for every single player with the logos and nice little logos on the map. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, the Intel Extreme Massive logo looked absolutely beautiful. I remember the first time I saw it, I thought it was so sick. Also was a thing in Warcraft 3 with like the flags and stuff. I always thought it looked really cool. The logo of the Shopify Rebellion is really nice as well, by the way. I'm a big fan of it.
Did you watch the animation of the announcement in the end?
I didn't watch that.
That was super cool.
Oh, I'll have to watch that after this. But for now, we see Byun. Oh my god, this is going to be an eBay block, isn't it? No, it's too late for an eBay block.
No. The other guy already has 400 minutes.
Oh, this is actually a really fast scout. Because very often you see Terran players just kind of scout after their barracks. I think this was an 18 scout.
It's so you don't put the CC on the low ground, I think.
Against the Void Ray.
Yeah.
Against Proxy Void Ray, you don't want the CC on the low ground. So that's indeed what it's for. I'm curious to see what Byun's going to follow up. He's actually opening a Reaper. It's rare to see him open up with a Reaper. He loves his Marine openers. Marine into Reactor is by far his most used opener in the past month and a half, I want to say, where, you know, when he came back, he kind of invented or reinvented the eBay block. So for a while, all Terrans were doing is they play gas first, then eBay block, go into a Marine, and do some random factory timing, or like a Hellion drop or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was so insanely annoying to deal with. And after a while, Tossa started walling on the low ground so he could see the eBay, and started proxy void raying a whole bunch as well, where the eBay on the natural isn't all that bad, because you have void rays in the other side, and other guy's base. But Yeah, it's interesting to see how he kind of keeps innovating, and every single time.
That was a sick probe block. He saved his probe with that. Sorry, go ahead. That was
Yeah, I saw that as well. I was like, "Ooh." But I got caught in the middle of my own sentence. So I'm glad you made the "woo" noise, in case people didn't know it was impressive. We have a Stargate on the left side here. This is a third pylon Stargate. Oh my, what?
Oh, he
Beyond.
lost the Reaper.
This is big.
Yeah.
Oh, this is especially big because there was no Reaper wall. If there was a Reaper wall here, it wouldn't have mattered that much. This is such a great start here for Hurricane. By the way, he's gonna be getting 2 SCVs on the he actually misses.
He should not have finished
shot
that shot for sure, and he's gonna lose it up now as well. Hurricane getting a little bit ahead of himself, but I liked what you said there. I actually think Byun is known for his micro and stuff, but I actually think he's a very smart player. He's also very good at preparing, and he literally invented a bunch of builds against Zerg, which people might not give him as much credit for because he has all of these Reddit clips of
him microing.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, but definitely, when I think about Byun, just the innovation that he brings to the TVP matchup is really crazy, and it feels like people just kind of follow him. They haven't really been following him with this barrack style, though. No one else seems to be as fond of it as Byun is. Personally, I'm also not too fond of it at times. It feels a little bit unsafe, a little bit gambly, but I mean, it's working out great for him most of the time, so who am I to complain? Now, we have this Oracle coming in here, and we'll be able to take out one worker at least. This minus oh my god, are you...
No. Good reaction time by Hurricane.
Yeah.
Oh, never.
I didn't even see that one.
I didn't either, to be honest.
I was like, it's nice that he has a mine on top of the barracks. What about the mineral line? And then I guess Hurricane was thinking the same thing and lost his Oracle. They often say great minds think alike, but this was more the opposite. As we have the mines going into the medevac, I'd be surprised if he moves out with this. You know, there's a Stargate. Even though out of a proxy Stargate, it's kind of uncommon to still build Phoenixes. I love that Byun is looking for the Stargate. This is so cool. Just in case there's going to be Phoenixes, he's like, you know what? I don't want you to keep making Phoenixes. I actually want to take this out. So not only does he get the scout on the fact that it's Phoenix, but he also will deny any further Phoenixes. That Phoenixes are such a snowbally unit where if you have 2 or 3, they're not really worth it, honestly. Like, you're going to be able to do a little bit of damage, but the more you get, really the better they tend to snowball for you at times. And I don't think this Phoenix will die, but I am wrong. And the Phoenix falls. Good scan there coming out of Byun as the Cyclone lock-on range is a little bit longer than I remembered. The 2 mine position as well, man. Byun is... It feels gimmicky the way he plays, but he's actually just using every unit in the optimal way, it feels like. Like, he's taking small risks in order to get pretty big rewards. You know, these 2 mines on the left side, if they catch a Phoenix there, the last Phoenix is practically worthless. Already right now, these 2 Phoenixes are kind of worthless, right? You can't really go harass with 2 Phoenixes. Killing an SCV will take half a year. And there's a Cyclone, there's a Viking. You see Byun moving across the map. I'd be surprised if he gets a kill here, or even if he gets anything done. There's no battery on the third base, but he's opting to go to the natural, where there is a battery in range of the Nexus.
Yeah, Immortal is also out already, but he needs to at least be in position to defend, which he is. Let's look at the drop in the main base, because this is, I think, where the main damage is going to come in from. And Hurricane is not responding very fast. I don't think he's looking at all. Oh no, 14 probes dying. That's huge. That's huge damage.
Yeah, that actually is really, really big. I was not minding the position of Hurricane so much. Even though his Stargate did get killed, it felt like he was at least in a good economical spot. And very often when you have a very high eco, when you play something very tech heavy, you're delaying your infrastructure a lot. So right now what's going to happen is that he needs to start adding gateways. Even though the supply right now is like, well, this looks kind of okay for Hurricane, the next minute and a half, he needs to start adding 4 or 5 gateways in order to be able to afford the economical growth that he's going through now. Otherwise, he's just going to be floating money. So the army that he has looks pretty scary, but it's not going to grow too quickly. And Byun is on 3 racks already. This CC actually can't go down. That's kind of important.
It is gonna go down for sure. Byun is nowhere close to stim, and this was a little bit greedy by Byun, and he's floating a little bit of minerals now because he doesn't have the CC, and now he's just opting to go for a 5 racks before even restarting the CC. So I think Byun is gonna feel forced to do at least a big move out once his stim and combat shields are done.
Yeah, another thing that during that push where he did a lot of damage, he was floating 800 to 900 minerals, actually. I forgot to mention it, and that, of course, is going to delay your follow-up stim push, especially if you're playing 3 racks before CC. I think it might have been almost that... No, it's 3 racks actually was before CC, but it felt like those were a little bit delayed compared to what they're supposed to be, and we already saw quite some factory units being produced initially, so... It's a little bit painful there for Byun. I wouldn't be too worried. We just saw the 5 extra gateways go down. There is no charge yet. And Blink is only halfway down. So drops are going to be a very, very viable option here for Byun to play with. Thermal Lens is about to finish up, but we're not seeing a pre-split coming out of Hurricane. I think Hurricane is misreading the timing of when these medeffects can move out.
He's doing it now. He's moving some Stalkers towards his main base. And I think this will be much more closer to what you expected of Byun, where he just... pumps out a lot of Marauders, a lot of Marines, keeps making more medevacs, and then tries to multi-prong. And that's the style that he's known for, obviously, instead of just going for the straight-up push. So let's see if he can pull a Hurricane apart, who's a little bit out of position here. Blink is not done yet. He needs to overcharge the battery. Yep, that's so right away. And, I mean, those medevacs at least are not in the risk of dying because there is no Blink yet, and the Willemines get some Zealot kills. But overall, decent defense by Hurricane with a good cannon plus shield battery combo.
Yeah, and something that it is that Byun does here isn't even necessarily always hunting for damage. He's also always hunting for vision. So he's making sure he can't get spotted by observers. We just saw him cancel a pylon. He wants to take out that probe on the left side. We now see that scan exactly like that. And he immediately loads up, sadly still in vision, of a secondary observer that was further in the back. So... the observer placement doesn't make much sense, but it also kind of makes sense because of that, because who's going to scan a second time at almost the exact same spot? We have a lot of Stalkers in the main. This time Blink is done, so Byun needs to be very, very careful. He does another scan on the far right side, doesn't see anything. But yeah, Hurricane's in a good position.
With that observer having spotted the 4 medevacs, would you not have preferred him to hide his Stalkers a little bit and then blink in to snipe the medevacs? Especially because he also had the Colossus in the main. I feel like that would have been...
Yeah, that would have been the play. If it was just the Stalkers, I've had one too many times where I tried to pull a move like that and he drops and I lose all my Stalkers. So But yeah, no, I completely agree. If your Colossi is there, that is not necessary. You can try to hide it a bit. And Byun didn't scan that time. He's been scanning a lot, but not in the base, at least not this time around. So... yeah, that definitely would have been a play. We see 2-2 coming down. We see the Ghost Academy once again before the fort. So I think he actually just kind of had a change of mind on the style he was playing before, where he went into that faster fort CC, he went into those faster barracks. Now he is more keen on getting quicker Ghost out. And I don't mind that at all. I mean, his control with Ghost Marauder armies is very good. We still see that big split in the armies, and we still see very continuous medevac production here, allowing him to be on 2 sides of the map without... too much risk on it. Of course, if he gets properly blinked on and there's Colossi, maybe a couple of good force fields, it can be scary, but if his control is on point, if he realizes where his opponent's army is, he can be fine. This is very scary though. If he walks up that ramp, he could potentially be trapped. Yeah, he needs to pay attention.
This was very good awareness by Byun that this was in fact a very dangerous situation for him. If he just sees the Nexus and it looks like Protoss is out of position, sentries can come in with the force fields and the Stalkers can blink in to catch. Now he knows that this was a big part of the army, but Hurricane obviously split his army very well, still has some Stalkers and Colossus in his main base, so Byun not the only player here who is very good at splitting his army up, and Hurricane in position for the left side as well.
You know what's really cool that we actually don't see a lot? Is that we're actually seeing some really nice adaptations coming out of Hurricane. Usually we say, after 3 Colossi, you kind of want to stop them. But because Byun is so keen on skipping Vikings and continuing medevac production, he says, you know what, I'm just going to be getting 5 Colossi, which makes it way easier for me to split my army. I mean, I'll have 3 Colossi on one side, 2 on the other, which means I'm always going to be trading at least okay against most armies. And now that he manages to get everything together, what does Byun really have to counter this army?
I'm very, very scared. I think Byun is not ready for this, and Hurricane is hitting before the 2-2 is done. Byun is backed into a corner. He's getting great EMPs. All the Stalkers don't have shields, but there's nothing that shoots the Colossus, as you said. There's a single Viking in the air, and he has to load up and try to force Hurricane to move back. Oh, great medevac movement. Great medevac movement. Hurricane tried to catch the medevacs with a recall and leaving half of the army to intercept them. But instead, Byun just juked him, and that kind of saved the game for Byun here, who is still behind in supply, and he has no army on the map. Remember that, because that means that Hurricane once again can bring all of his units forward, and it will still be very, very hard for Byun to deal with. But he bought himself at least a little bit of time with that maneuver.
Yeah, definitely. We see a sensor tower in an interesting location. It's not going to work out. A part of the army of Byun might be setting up for a flank, but in order to flank, you also need a second army. Otherwise, just an attack from the back. There's not really that much of a flank. We see Disruptor shot not hitting everything, but hitting big enough things. And I think Byun is going to try to go for like a semi-base trade and then perhaps try to hold his natural. I mean, he knows that the recall has already been used. I think he saw that. So
there are units. So there already two Colossus at home with the big Colossus count that Hurricane had. He was ready for this, and Byun's army at the front is not even enough to take out the one Nexus of Hurricane, whereas he's struggling to survive at home. He needs to hold this planet here, but he's massively out of position. And I'm afraid that the army is not going to be able to respond in time. Good disruptor shots, okay. Hurricane is playing it safe here. Does not commit onto the planetary, which would have been a possible way of a throw, but yeah, Byun is trying to retreat all his army. I think he might try to pounce on the army that is on the left side or on the right side. I feel like that's the only move he has left right now, because if he fights both armies together, I don't think he can win a fight.
yeah, before they join together, especially that right side army is looking very, very weak. But of course, Hurricane knows that he wants to join the mob. He's walking into an engagement that I don't think he was quite prepared for. This position is nice for Byun. Let's see if it's going to be enough. Big disruptor shot hitting though, and the Colossi flank from the back might just prove to be a little bit too much. As 5 Colossi, 2 Immortals, and a bunch of Stalkers are still going ham on Byun's army. Right now, Hurricane is doubling the supply as Shadow Strike finishes up. Byun has to tap out. Ties up the series, does Hurricane, and we're going to be going to the rubber match.
And my camera is going to be gone for you, but I will fix it for a second. My ping went a little bit higher than usual, so I, to be safe, deactivated everything that was not entirely necessary.
A true caster. Showing a lot of empathy to the players, guys. But we'll have to do with the...
It should be here now with the green screen. I hope that's fine.
That's all good.
All right.
I'll just remove you temporarily. Right now I'm not seeing anything, but that's okay. Yeah, that last game was interesting. I feel like I really like the addition of those 2 extra Colossi. And the moment you get all those Colossi together, you said it correctly, by the way, is the moment that you can kind of scare that army of Byun back home and there's nothing on the map. As a toss, you finally have the right to actually attack into something, and preferably, obviously, the third. And then all of a sudden you're fighting an army that isn't all that great, right? The upgrades weren't absolutely brilliant. There was no Vikings there. Sure, there's Ghosts and Marauders, but against 5 Colossi, 2 Immortal, and even a couple of Disruptors, that's going to be a very, very tough fight. And Hurricane honestly handled that in a beautiful way. So let's see if Byun has another ace up his sleeve, or a king for that matter, because that last game was looking very, very good for Hurricane. Even though his early game wasn't that hot, right? Lost 14 workers.
Well, I think after he cancelled the third CC, I think it was all right. If it wasn't for the mine drop, I think he would have been very far ahead. So yeah. All right, we loaded up into map number 3, and I stole the introduction, the first one, because I want to introduce my teammate here, spawning in the bottom left. The Red Tyrant player for the Shopify Rebellion. It is Byun.
And at top right, spawning as the blue Protoss player, it is going to be Hurricane. But this time he's opening up with a Reaper Wall. First time he does it. Neither on Jagannatha nor Submarine. Of course, on Submarine it's kind of useless. Like, not that great of a Reaper Wall. Jagannatha has Oxide has a brilliant Reaper Wall, and Hurricane is showing this off perfectly immediately. So let me talk about that for a little bit. This is only possible on Oxide and Jagannatha, and what you do is you can wall off this area that I'm pointing to right now. You have this Reaper ramp, and you can still hide a tech building over here. Even if the Reaper pops up here, he won't be able to see the tech building here, which makes this map very, very good for slightly cheesy or more risky strategies. We've seen things like Stargate, Phoenix save-ups, 3-gate DT is extremely popular on this map, as well as 4-gate Blink. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see one of those three things. And I'm especially keen to see the Twilight Council play, because that is, I think, the most common and the most popular, especially in Korea. We see these big 4-gate blink pushes, we see these DT drops on Oxide a lot. Now, of course, sometimes the best thing you can do on a map where people expect this type of play is to not do it at all. So there's a little bit of a mind game involved there. Byun is, of course, aware. And Byun is like, you know what, this map is so crap for Reapers. I'm not even going to start one.
Oh, very cool. Hides the Marine and starts the second one, so it looks like a Reaper first. Good play by him.
Yeah.
And he is opting to go for the factory and the reactor right after. So it is not the same as we saw in the first game, even though it was Marine first this time.
And it's definitely not the same as we saw in the second game either, right? With that Barracks versus Reaper Marine play. Now, the thing that happens here is that the factory is going to be faster, which means any type of drop or aggressive play that Byun can do based on a factory is going to hit 20 seconds quicker. And because he managed to fake a Reaper, I'm going to be really, really surprised if Hurricane is just straight up letting this shade finish. I'd actually be shocked. I'm actually a little bit surprised and shocked there. Like, this is really weird because he didn't see the Marine. He saw a unit producing from the barracks. If a Reaper had popped into his main base, he actually would have been in a bit of trouble. He would have lost 2-3 workers, and that's not worth it.
Well, it's called Star Sense, Kevin. That's why they're players and we're casters.
Yeah, probably. I mean, even now, he shouldn't be capable of getting this SCV. He should be able to get 2 hits off, then the CC will finish. He can go into the CC. The Hellion finishes up. So at this moment, if Hurricane knows his timings, which he does, he should know, hey, this was a Marine into factory, not into reactor. Because if you're playing Marine reactor factory, in that case, it's going to be a Hellion that finishes up at around 318, 319, which wouldn't be hitting this Adept then, obviously. So right now, the timings in Hurricane's head have already been changing a little bit. And he is, by the way, going for that Phoenix save up in the main base. This is something we don't really see very often in Korea.
Do you think you should use the Phoenix to scout, or would you prefer him just hiding
safe? Yes, absolutely should be. Especially after seeing the Hellion, I would be... Because it kind of indicates that there's going to be... Usually it's going to be like a medevac drop as a follow-up. Very, very often. This definitely should have been left at home. I like that he's scouting for a proxy starport. Potentially a proxy starport. He's barely... he sees it. He barely caught the medevac. That's a really, really big deal. If he's out of position and this medevac hits, he's going to actually be in a bad spot. But right now, I think he's going to be okay, right? He won't take any damage. He knows there's a medevac on the map. Byun also won't be too upset. He sees, hey, he was doing a Phoenix save up, and I get to go home for free. You know, that's better than most Terrans get to do if there's a Phoenix save up. Very often, you don't get the privilege of walking home with your Marine. So the wife and the kids of these bad boys will be very happy as well. And we're going to be continuing into a 3-Rex mid game.
Yeah, and Byun opted to go into the Raven this time, whereas Hurricane, very similar to last game, opted for the quick Robo, so I'm expecting a Colossus follow-up again from him. He has a decently timed third Nexus, not the earliest, but do you think we're gonna see a big timing here with the Raven, or what are we expecting to see here from Byun?
I'm expecting the Raven to die before he moves out on the map. I'm going to be honest with you. Raven is notoriously really bad against Phoenix.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about the Raven? If you get it to the other side of the map and you're playing against Phoenix, it could just straight up win you the game because the Colossi are so delayed. There's going to very often be a single Colossi, and that will be all the real damage output. So if you get a interference matrix off on that Colossi, that could just be game over because there's no other real DPS in the army. You're really trusting on that one Colossi to do something. Then your Phoenixes can lift the Marauder so your Colossi stays alive. If you don't have the DPS of the Colossi, you could just die. But it's so difficult to keep the Raven alive against any number of Phoenix. There could be half a Phoenix on the map and I would already be worried about the health of this Raven. Of course, they take extra damage from these light attacks of the Phoenix. And the way that the Raven moves with the Terran army is just god-awful. So it's, if he gets it to the other side of the map, he kind of deserves the win, in my opinion.
Dude, I'm not sure, man. Byun is very good. So far, he guarded the Raven very well with 2 different Marine groups, and now he is moving out, and the Phoenix are nowhere close, and he knows where the Phoenix are. He has a Raven hotkey and a single hotkey as well, and keeps him always on the opposite side of the Phoenix. So Phoenix getting some decent pickoffs.
Did the Phoenixes, is Hurricane aware that there's a Raven? Because the way he's playing this with the Phoenixes makes me believe he doesn't quite know that there's a Raven. I would be trying to snipe the Raven, like my life depends on it. Look at the army currently that Hurricane has. Hurricane is expecting a push on the third base. There's a cannon, a second battery going up. His army is looking pathetic right now.
Oh wow, Byun is stemming in with the interference matrix. Hurricane thought he had to guard his natural, so Byun is trying to bait him out while faking to go to the third base. Now overcharge is popped. The Raven does still have a second interference matrix as well. So now he stems towards the third base. There is a cannon and 2 shield batteries, but this looks like a decent start to the fight for Byun. Oh, second interference matrix. And you said he deserves to win the game, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing here.
Yeah, I honestly, like, getting the Raven across is so difficult. He got a little bit lucky that Hurricane misread that situation, thought it was a standard push-out, because who in the hell would build a Raven after scouting 4 Phoenixes? And apparently the answer is Byun. He takes out 11 workers. The game isn't over yet. There's a lot of money in the bank here for Hurricane. The problem, though, is he doesn't have any Phoenixes. He doesn't have Blink, so how is he going to deal with drops? The Raven finally did go down, but these 2 interference matrices were so big. Another quick note here is that if he would have attacked into the third base, this would have been a very different fight. The fact that he goes in between the natural and the third allows him to do the maneuver that you described, where he kind of fakes going into natural and Hurricane's like, hey, wait, I need to defend that. Pops the super battery there, and then kind of needs to defend the high ground towards the third as well. It's a very awkward situation. We have a 4 mine drop going into the main base, while the main army of Byun is going into the third, and there's absolutely nothing for Hurricane in place yet. Thermal Lens has finished, but the rest of his army is looking so weak with this.
Yeah, he has nothing to tank anymore for this Colossus, which means the Marauders are stewing forward, and Byun takes it. 2-1.
What a game. What a... Yeah, it's kind of what I expect. If you get that Raven across the map, it's really good. But I think this is a Black Swan event. You know, it's one of these things that happens once in a lifetime for a player, where you get the Raven to the other side. If you are playing, if you are playing against Phoenix, it's so difficult. The Raven has very little HP. It behaves in a weird way, and Phoenixes are insanely fast. So honestly, big props to Byun there, who takes the series 2-1 against Hurricane.
It was honestly a little bit more close than I expected after watching Hurricane's results, and Byun obviously being by some even a tournament favorite, even though he obviously is here and has to fight his way through the round of 36 since he didn't play the entire season. So it's great to see. Obviously, I'm very happy because he's my teammate and I'm cheering for him. Try to not be too biased in the cast, but yeah. Also, one thing I wanted to mention is that Byun actually accidentally, I think, showed his Raven to the Phoenix, but maybe Hurricane was already looking back with the camera, because I checked that when the Phoenix were flying towards the barracks and the Raven was flying a little bit forward. I think it was in vision for a second.
What timing game was that? Like 550 or so?
Or you're in the replay. I have no idea.
We can just show it real fast. But I mean, it should be around the move out time, right? Yeah. Okay, so it's the reason why we were so surprised with Ravens, because it is really, really uncommon. And even, I think he might have barely missed it here. Even like in situations before this, even if he's not moving across the map, like if the Marines are split, it can be so difficult. And it's very often worth it to just sacrifice one Phoenix. Okay, he barely saw it.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Barely in vision. Oh man. I don't think he saw
probably
something.
Did not. Yeah, he didn't see it. He theoretically might have caught something. Is there no way of telling that it's a Raven opener based on the timing of the medevacs? Because that must be delayed, right?
It's difficult because, especially if the Terran opens medevac himself, right? Because you don't quite know. Usually that changes the plan of the Terran, so their build isn't quite as tight as it usually would be. Because this was not a prepared build for against Stargate. So sometimes the Stargate just doesn't do anything and creates like a quicker tech lap or something like that. So yeah, I always find it pretty difficult to read these type of games as well when I'm playing Phoenix myself. Which I think he might have actually seen it. Right?
He saw it 5-5-36. This is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Because Byun accidentally moved it forward. I'm pretty sure there was an accident, or he just had it hotkeyed with the Marines or something.
Yeah, he also slightly saw it at the move out at 6:19. Like, but both times was such an edge case that I don't know. It's so freaking, like, you're also controlling your Phoenix obviously, and it might even be blocked by the bar on the bottom. You know, we don't have that, so or at least I don't have that.
That's true. That's true. I don't have that on, so he might
Yeah.
not have seen it. You know what this is? I think this is the true imbalance, because if you spawn at the bottom, I'm pretty sure you would see that, because your camera is usually
your
more
camera's
towards the top.
different.
Like
This is the true imbalance.
this is what I'm talking about. Sometimes on my stream, I much prefer playing late game against Protoss when I spawn in the bottom, because it feels a lot easier for me to have the vision at the top and abduct, because the mouse
Yeah.
is right next to where I need to move it to move the screen. So I actually prefer spawning in the bottom in those scenarios. But yeah, you might have actually not seen it because of that, as crazy as that sounds.
That does sound pretty. I never actually had considered that much until now. All right, that's actually going to be it for me and